everybody. Welcome back to the Pro Series Podcast. This is episode 58, and today's guest is Conor. He is the CEO of Hoek Furniture. Conor tells me a little bit about him and where he came from, how he got into architecture, how him and his business partner, Brian, who is the COO of Hoek Furniture, started Hoek Furniture, and what they are doing that is so different from anybody else in the furniture game. If you look at their website, they truly are changing the way and how easy furniture is to assemble. It is like a transformer. I kind of talk about that in the podcast, but truly, once you see the video, you're going to know what I'm talking about. So definitely go check them out and listen to this episode. But before we get into this episode, please make sure you like, subscribe, and review this podcast on wherever you listen to this podcast. And now I hope you enjoy episode 58 with Conor from Hoek Furniture. Thank you so much, Conor, for joining me today on the Pro Series podcast. Very excited to talk to you about your company and just how it all came about and your background.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us on. Delighted to share our story.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I always like to start each episode on like how I met the guest. And I want to thank Adrian Ramsey over in Australia for introducing us. He's given me quite a few guests and vice versa. So thank you to him. And were you a guest on his podcast as well?
Yeah. We had, it wasn't about a month ago. I guess by the time this comes out, that episode should be out. But we had a great conversation. Really fun guy, and fun interview with Adrian for sure.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. Well, I want to start off. I went onto your website and I kind of said off camera, like I was watching a build of one of your coffee tables or a desk or something, and it literally looks like a transformer, like how it's built. I've never seen anything like this.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
For people that don't know anything about your company, can you explain just kind of the gist of what you all do and what the name is and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're called Hoek Home, and spelled Hoek, pronounced like hook or book. And the name comes from the area in Brooklyn where we are. So it's Red Hook, but it was originally a Dutch settlement. So when the Dutch moved in, it was called Rode Hoek, and Rode is the color red, which was the color of the soil, and Hoek because it's like a hook-shaped peninsula out into the ocean. So we thought that was really cool. And then our design or our system is based around these little hooks on the front and back of each leg. So we thought it was like a nice kind of, paying homage to the area where we are and a little bit to the design. And it looked a bit more chic than Hook. So we went with Hoek.
When you're developing it, was that the name that you wanted from the beginning, or did that take a lot of problems?
No, it was kind of like, we were spitballing different ideas long after we developed the system, and like, we need something, kind of short and catchy. And I think we're sitting in the back of an Uber and this one popped into our head. So we're called Hoek Home. We're based in Red Hook in Brooklyn, New York. And we design and build modular flat pack furniture that gives people the power to transform their space in seconds, basically. So you can assemble or disassemble anything that, we've designed in seconds with no tools or hardware. And it's all made with the best available materials, locally sourced, and 100% post-consumer recycled plastic. So, that was really important part of the business for us, is to approach our design with the circular design methodology. So everything that we do is made with the most sustainable materials that we can get our hands on. And the way that we design it and put it together means that, the customer can take parts apart very easily if something breaks, and we have a lifetime warranty and we'll replace it. So we're really designed with longevity in mind, something that you're going to have with you for many years to come. And, we're not gluing pieces together so you can't get them apart again.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah. And I highly suggest people go onto your website to look at this video, or your social media is pretty good as well, showing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's start out, like, how did you start out in the business? Not necessarily Hoek, but when you were younger, did you always want to be furniture maker or designer, or where'd you land?
Right. So design, yes, from a very early age. So I'm Irish originally. I was born in Dublin, and we moved over here with my family when I was a kid. We moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, because my dad used to work for Intel. So
Okay.
that was like in itself the most opposite, like the middle of the desert from this very lush, green, rainy island. So that was a crazy experience. And while we were living there, my mom always had like a really strong interest in architecture, and she took me and my brother and my sister to go and see Frank Lloyd Wright's Taliesin West, which is like if I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's one of the houses and studios that he built in Arizona. And I think I was like a young kid, like 12 or 13 or something like that. I just never seen anything like it. It was just this incredible building, like built into the landscape, and it was built with all local stone and amazing angles and colors. And I was just so taken with it. I think my mom realized like, wow, he really likes design or architecture. And so I think it was from that point on I really had it in my head that I was going to do some sort of design or architecture.
Mhm.
I think as I got older, I got interested in cars, and I wanted to do like automotive design and product design and things like that. But ended up, sticking with architecture. I did my bachelor's in Dublin, which is, a 5-year architecture course. And then oh yeah, so I went back, and then I came back over to the US and did a master's in architecture, which is where I met my business partner. And yeah, that's kind of that's how I got into design anyway.
That's very cool. What I'm always interested talking to people that come from a different country. How different is architecture from the US to Ireland?
Um, so I think for me, the major difference was it's very team focused in the US. So you learn how to collaborate really well. I think it's a little bit more individual, well, at least in my experience, like in Dublin, which is great because like you had in Dublin, I got that, grounding. Like I kind of understood who I was as a designer before I started collaborating. You know what I mean? Like I didn't jump the gun. Um, so yeah, 5 years of like practicing it by yourself, you're gonna learn a thing or two about yourself. Um, and then also, I think in Europe they focus heavily on like conceptual and theoretical like grounding, so you understand like architectural history, and you have a strong idea of like concepts. And then over in the US, it's very skill focused. So I learned like it really dovetailed very well for me because I had this like theoretical and conceptual grounding, and then I came over to the US and I kind of backed it up with all of these digital modeling skills and digital fabrication and everything that I'm doing today. Those skill sets I learned in the US. So
Mhm.
definitely like leaps and bounds ahead in that area.
Yeah, when you were younger, I forget who I was talking to, but um, another guest of mine, they didn't have the out like classes to fulfill their creative needs when they were growing up. Before
Mm.
college, so in high school, middle school, did you have that growing up, or did you kind of do it all on your own?
Um, I really didn't get into physically making things until grad school in the US.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, I mean, like always pretty handy with my hands. Like my dad was always doing stuff around the house, so definitely like enjoyed DIY and like had an understanding of how to use tools and stuff. And I think I started off very early on. And I did Montessori for like way too long. I think I did Montessori till I was like 10 years old or something. And it's like a very, kinesthetic thing. You're like you pick up objects. You're working with like different materials and things. So maybe like that kind of set the wheels in motion for why I was interested in those things. And then over here, I think all of the schools are so well equipped with their metal shops and their wood shops and CNC machines, and we just didn't have that in Ireland. So it's like you're a kid in a candy store and you come over here, you're like, you mean I can actually like run that machine? It's crazy. Laser cutters, you name it. So I think that it just opened up my whole world in terms of design and what we could create. Anything is possible.
Absolutely. So after grad school, so did you meet your business partner in grad school, you said?
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So did this company, the seed of this company, was it planted in grad school? Were you guys always trying to figure out something you wanted to do?
Yeah, I think like I mean, we it's funny, like I moved over from Ireland to New York when I was, mid-20s, and I found three roommates on Craigslist, which I think for most people is like absolute like nightmare scenario. But they're
Yeah.
still some of my best friends to today. And I luckily I mean, this is like one in a million, but there three of them were all architects. They were the same age as me. And I just happened to like move into that apartment. So we became like best friends. Um, and at the time I was like I bartended for a year in New York before going to grad school, and my roommate at the time was like, oh, I have a friend who's going to grad school also, like he's going to the same school. You should kind of like meet up. So then Brian and I met on the open day at the GSD, and like I mean we pretty much instantly became best friends. We were like we did everything together, like all of our projects, and we lived together up there. Yeah, so I think we always wanted to do something together, whether that be an architecture firm or design or whatever it was going to be. Like I think we realized that our personalities and skill sets dovetailed really well, where we made
Yeah.
each other like better designers.
Yeah. So when did Hook start? Like when did you guys first start the actual process of making the company?
Well, Hook, I mean, the first thing we did, if I backtrack just before that, just to give you some context, we graduated, and I think we both went to work as like architectural designers in New York for a couple of years, like a year and a half, 2 years.
Okay.
I got to work with my professor Toshiko Mori, and Brian worked for DDG, a design build company in Manhattan. And that was really fun. And I think we just started doing, kind of small jobs on the side. Like, can you make a reception desk? And we would just take one thing on at a time, and we just loved making things with our hands. So we would do it after work. We had like a tiny little space in Ridgewood, like really, really small. So we built a reception desk, and then we built another thing, and one thing led to another. And I guess we just got really lucky with commissions. But after like about two or three commissions, we had this job to build like the solid walnut um, workstation for these offices in Manhattan. And they were like 60 feet long. So it was like a six-figure commission. And we basically had only built like a couple of desks and chairs. So like right out of the gate, we're super lucky with that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? Like, this is good money. It's just the two of us. I'm going to leave my job, and we'll give this a go, and we'll see if we can take it more seriously. There was no major pressure to like make a business out of it. It was very organic. And we did that. And then we got another commission from that company to build like these outdoor benches, like street benches. And at that point, it was kind of like me and Brian had a talk, and we're like, okay, this is bigger than what we expected. I think, you're probably going to have to leave your job now if we want to make this real thing. And he had a tougher time than me because he was really like getting into the rhythm of his job. Like it takes a while to understand the dynamics of an office, particularly architecture office in Manhattan. It's very hectic. So he was really getting into the flow. So I think it was a tough decision for him. But he decided in the end to leave, and we set up our own company called A05 Studio, which is a design build firm in Brooklyn, and we still operate out of the same space here in Red Hook. And so we started that project, or that company first, and it's still going. That's about 5 or 6 years old now at this point. And really, how that kind of transformed into Hook, or how Hook came about, was again, we're very lucky with clients for A5, and during the pandemic, all of our jobs stopped. I think we had 10 on the go, and 9 of them stopped. And we had one job left with Bank of America that just like we clung on to for dear life. But we had, a brilliant team here. I think at the time we had like 8 people, and we have a huge warehouse, which, I showed you off before the interview, and we're like, oh man, what do we do? So we kind of had people come in part-time just to kind of keep the lights on and do a little bit of work. And we just started shifting our focus to furniture. really because we didn't have anything else to do, and we had like such a talented team, and we had this amazing CNC machine and everything, and it was something that we were all interested in. And we obviously a lot of people were shifting to working from home, and there was a huge demand for good quality home furniture. So we just kind of like started playing around with these ideas. I think the first idea was, can we make something that like goes together without any tools or hardware, which isn't the most difficult challenge in the world, but like that was what we set out to do, because everyone was having such a difficult time with the flat pack furniture, all the nuts and bolts. And then we just started taking a little bit further, and we're like, can we kind of disassemble really quickly? Like, can we pack it together? And it was like a game. Like, can we challenge ourselves to create this system that makes it easy for our friends, because we were hearing all of our friends complaining, to like assemble and disassemble their furniture. And maybe they can set up their home office desk for the weekend and put it away at the weekend. That would be really handy. Or they could hang it on the wall or slide it under their couch or something. So we kind of experimented like that for a while, and then this idea of the flexible joint came about, and the chassis which stores the components, which I think you're referring to, kind of looks like a transformer.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, so that's kind of really where the initial idea came about. And there was no greater idea to like start a business or anything like that, really. I think it was just, we're just having fun.
Yeah. I like how you said, I mean, during COVID, a lot of companies took off or kind of tanked, but I kind of like the way you came in on, you could put your desk away during the day because a lot of people are still working from home or have new
Yeah.
jobs to work from home, and you could just, and you said hang up the desk. You could hang it
Yeah,
up.
everything we make comes with, I mean, this is so funny because like we keep we have this issue of like communicating all of the benefits of our product.
Yeah.
Like someone will follow us on Instagram for a long time. They're like, wait, you can hang your stuff on the wall. And I was like, yeah, it's like, so like we're finding it so hard to like market all these benefits. But everything, all of the furniture that we make comes with this kind of slimline wall cleat, and you can hang any of the pieces on the wall. Um, and so you have this kind of like, you can hang like your side tables or your desk, like everything packs like an inch and a half thick. So you click the legs into the underside of the desk, and then you can just hang it on the wall. And it actually, we were doing it from a utilitarian perspective initially. And then
Yeah.
you see this beautiful piece of walnut on your wall, and like, wow, that's actually like super nice. So because you have the round coffee table or so it becomes like this wall art piece. And we've kind of leaned into that more. We're collaborating with artists now and using the surface of the furniture as like a canvas. But yeah, everything we make comes with a wall cleat as well.
That's insane. I didn't even see that on. Wow, that's incredible. I mean,
Right? We probably haven't communicated it on the website effectively.
that's crazy though. I'm looking at it right now. That's kind of zoned out. But so when you think of this stuff, did you think of that, or was that kind of an accidental type of thing that you added?
Let's see. I mean, like the joint, the flexible joint was the first thing, and I think we were playing around. It was originally like a plywood joint, and it was more like a buckle, right? Which I'm sure people have seen online. Like if you're a DIY or a maker, like that's a common like joint. I think where we started to make something interesting ourselves was where we like got this lever action for the leg. And so it's really easy to click in, and then we experimented with different materials. So
Yeah.
we naturally went to like HDPE because it's a flexible plastic. You can get it like 100% recycled, which is obviously amazing. So like all of our legs and chassis components are made from recycled water bottles and milk jugs. And then once we had that like flexible joint, we're like, well, I guess like this is cool, but like where do you put the legs? And then we started like looking at the chassis. And I think it was a friend of mine, Ben, was like, this would be really, it's so thin, you could almost hang it on the wall. So they kind of snowballs after, the initial idea. And,
That's
and we hope to continue like innovating and creating more, new features and benefits. Like that's kind of really what, we're all excited about, is like creating these like innovations in the furniture industry.
yeah. That's so thought out. I mean, I thought just your planning process on this table was thought out. Wow. Incredible.
Thank you.
Especially like
Thank
if
you.
people in New York like that have smaller apartments and they need a desk or they need something else and then they have people over. I think this is a genius idea.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, in reality, like there, been asked a number of times, like, who's our target market, who's our consumer, and like we really designed it for ourselves. Like we're just chatting to all of our friends during the pandemic, and they had the same issues, and we're like, okay, let's try and make something to combat these problems.
Yeah,
And it's funny, it's not necessarily young, working professionals in the city that are always buying these. Like they're being purchased all over the US, and like places you wouldn't think, like in the middle of like rural wherever. Like
wow,
it's just beneficial to have a piece of furniture that's not hard to set up. Like that's a
exactly.
benefit in itself.
Or just store, because there is foldable furniture. It's not a new thing, but it's
Sure,
very
exactly.
hard to store foldable furniture because it doesn't really fold into an inch. Would you say inch and a half or something like that?
Everything's like an inch and a half thick. Yeah, once it's all packed together.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
I think we've tried like the difference from this and foldable furniture, because obviously, right, like as you said, there's trestle tables, there's things that'll fold and assemble just as easily as this, but we've tried really hard to create like an aesthetically beautiful piece of furniture that
Yeah,
does the same thing. So typically when you get like those easy foldable, trestle tables, like they look like that. They look like you don't really want to sit at a home office desk that looks like that. So we've
exactly.
really tried hard to make it look, beautiful as well.
Exactly. So, what have you wanted to expand into more than just the furniture you have on your website? Is that kind of what Hook's looking to in the next, 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We'd love to expand our product count. As I said, like we have about 6 product at the moment in multiple different color variations, but we're working on we're working on an outdoor line for next summer. We
Oh,
have this idea that I think we could create a children's line called Hook Junior, which I think would be amazing because the kids could actually assemble it themselves.
yeah, that would be
So I think
awesome.
that's something we'd love to do, and we're working on like other furniture elements too. We haven't created a chair yet. I think just having a dining chair would be excellent, and storage solutions. So we're constantly working, and I think the goal is to try and have a big product release every quarter, something new and special.
Yeah, I'm excited for the outdoor one because, especially for us here on the East Coast, we always bring our furniture in the wintertime. So,
Right, right.
and that obviously we have no foldable outdoor furniture because it wouldn't
Yeah,
be.
we're super excited to do that. We're working with a friend and a mentor of mine, Ben Ueda. He's a very famous YouTuber. Homemade Modern is his channel. I don't know if you know,
I've
but
heard of his name. Yeah,
yeah, he's great. I mean, in the design world or the DIY makerspace, he's one of the OGs. But he really was just so yeah. Sorry, I was digressing. We're going to work with him on the outdoor line. And he was really the first guy to say to us like, no, you should really make a company out of this, or you should do something with this idea. Because I remember I'd made a coffee table prototype, and I went home and my wife Amy like filmed me like I carried it in under my arm like a surfboard and popped it together, and I just like, hey, look, I made this cool thing at work. And I texted it to Ben, and he was like, what do you want? Like, do you want money? Like, what do you need? You got it. And I was like, oh man, like maybe this is actually cooler than I thought.
yeah.
So then he kind of advised us to do the Kickstarter, and he was instrumental in helping us like navigate that. And that was really how we kind of got our start.
That's interesting. So how does a Kickstarter? I've seen many Kickstarters started, like, but how does that
Yeah.
all work? Like,
It's okay. So like the reason why it's really beneficial for, small company or someone with an idea is it helps in a number of ways. One, it'll help you as like a big marketing push
mhm,
because you're on the platform, they're going to publicize it. And like, so in that sense, just getting the word out there, I can't imagine a better way to do it for, not very much capital.
mhm,
And then the second thing is you're getting capital from people before you're making the product, so you're getting it up front. You're able to buy your materials. There's an understanding between the Kickstarter community and all the people who are making these things that it's going to be take a while for people to figure its production out. And so you're in this kind of like safe space where you're getting money up front, there's a good understanding. No one's like breathing down your neck. And, we were super late in sending out all of our product because we'd never made this much stuff before.
Yeah.
And like, within pretty much no one was that upset, right? Like bar one or two people, because that's par for the course in Kickstarter. But I can't recommend it enough for someone who's trying to set it like anything new, or just looking for a bit of capital or publicity. It's a fantastic platform. Or Indiegogo, there's a number of them.
Yeah. So in the building you're in right now, that everything is manufactured, the offices, the shipment, everything's in that building.
Yeah. We do design. We get all of. I mean, the recycled plastic sheets we get from manufacturers in Texas. So they shred the bottles down, and we get sheets here. But pretty much raw materials come in. Everything's designed and made on our CNC machine and hand sanded and finished. And we have a spray booth here where we spray all our water-based finishes, and we even make our own boxes.
Really?
Yeah. We have the
Boxes.
CNC machine fit out with like a box cutting blade, and it'll cut the boxes, and so all the boxes are custom and everything.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Good and bad. I want to outsource some of the process soon because we're growing, and it's getting more and more difficult to kind of keep up with the demand. But I definitely like great way to start.
Yeah. As you get bigger, are you ready to buy your neighbors, or find a new spot for the manufacturing? Or
You know what? It's like it's big. We have 10,000 square feet here. We just have to be
okay.
more. As I said, we have the other business here that does like custom builds, so they kind of we're able to split rent and share labor between people as we need. So in that sense, it was great. Like Hook was totally bootstrapped until 6 months ago. Everything that we did was either from Kickstarter or from revenue from A5 Studio, and now it's generating its own sales, and it's growing really nicely. But we just have to manage the space effectively between the two companies. I don't think this is such a once in a lifetime space. I don't think we're going anywhere unless we have to.
Yeah, it's incredible. The viewers that don't know, before he was showing me like the view, and it was just all water view, and it's insane. I would never want to leave that.
Yeah, I mean, we're in this 150-year-old building. It's an old coffee warehouse. It juts out onto the water just south of Manhattan. We look out, one side, and we have the Statue of Liberty right across the bay, and then on the other side we have Amazon, and we have IKEA just like looming over us. And so I'm always joking, like we have the enemies out there, and then we have freedom on the other side. We're like somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But it is an incredible space, and we're so lucky to have it. And I think Red Hook and Brooklyn, this area, this community, is full of such creative people. It's a lot of makers and from all walks of life, like artists and woodworkers and metal workers. And so we have, we're surrounded by that community, which is brilliant.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, Conor, thank you so much for hopping on today and making time to come on the podcast. I want to finish off and just give us where people could follow Hook or you on social media or your website.
Yeah, absolutely. We're on all the social platforms. HOEKHOME. So Hook Home. You'll find us on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We have a great social media team. We're pretty. I think one way we differ from other furniture brands is we're definitely showing all of the behind the scenes and the day-to-day life of what's going on in the shop. And a bunch of great content out there if you want to see what we're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Conor, for so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. It's a pleasure.